On to our next guest I am honored to have here tonight is Sherri Cortland. Through automatic writing, Sherri Cortland channels and shares information communicated by her guide groups in her books and workshops with the expressed intention of providing tools that you can use to expedite your spiritual growth and to complete your to-do list for this incarnation with less drama and pain, and to increase your vibrational level and positive energy output to make the completion of the shift easier for everyone for our planet. Sherri's website is very interesting. You can go take a look at her website at sherricortland.com. We're going to talk about her books. Without any further delay, let's get her on the line. Sherri, good evening. Welcome to AM 630 and the Fringe Radio Show.
Pat, I am so happy and so honored to be on this show with you and with your wonderful callers. I was so excited to hear that we're going to have questions from the listeners.
We are. We definitely are.
I love it.
I do too. That's what this is all about. It's about being open-minded, without a doubt, and talking about different subjects, and building our spiritual presence, and maybe putting away some reservations that we've had for many years and upbringings we've had, and take a look at things and be interesting. So many interesting things in life, spiritually and physically.
Absolutely. And, before we get into the whole thing that I'm on the show for, I have to say, following Peter Robbins, thanks a lot for that, because that's going to be so hard for me to do. He was so wonderful. I loved hearing him talk. What a treat. And is Bill the person who called in from around Pine Bush, New York?
Yes, he's just north of New York City. He's a good friend. He's a great listener. He is a sky watcher. He has taught me, and him and another great listener, Eric, have given us the time. They've been on the program to talk about setting up these high-definition security cameras and pointing things up at the sky, and they're catching so many things. And it's so interesting, Sherri, because here in Salt Lake City, this past a couple days ago, there was a sighting, something that took place, an event. We'll call it an event. Some of the astronomers here in town at the university are saying, it was just a meteor. But it was definitely more than a meteor that went overhead, and just so many cameras caught those things. And Bill and Eric and so many people are setting things up to view the sky, and my hat's off to them, because they take so much time. It's like EVPs, you can gather so much information, and then you gotta put boots to the ground and sort through it all, and that's that's what they're doing.
It's a lot of work, and the reason why Bill caught my attention so much when I was listening earlier is that I grew up in the Hudson Valley, and I graduated from Pine Bush High School. How's that for synchronicity?
There you go. lot of activity up in that area. I mean, just so many different sightings. I think it happens all over the place, but with the population of people up there and people looking up in the sky and stuff, it's amazing.
Yeah, Pine Bush has always been a center for UFO activity.
Well, this is the right place to be, Sherri, because we talk about all these fun subjects, because they are fun. I think not only are they interesting, they are very fun to talk about.
They are. They're interesting, fun, and pretty soon it's going to be mainstream and not Fringe.
Exactly.
And you're going to have to change the name of your show.
Yeah, I've thought about mainstreamradio.com. Anyway, it's an honor to have you here tonight, Sherri.
Thank you.
I went through your. I gotta be honest with you. You sent me some information. I captured it on my other PC, transferred it over to the PC that I bring here, the laptop that I bring here to the station when I do the show, and realized that I didn't have PowerPoint loaded on it. So I'm going to kind of have to wig through this. I took a lot of notes down and stuff. But why don't you give the listeners a little bit of your background and what's been going on? Talk about, kind of give us the backstory and how you got into everything that you do, and your work in writing are amazing.
All right, just interrupt me at any time, because I tend to talk nonstop. Well, the thing for me, it was in the late 80s when I got started with the automatic writing, and the way that it happened for me is that I was reading all of the Ruth Montgomery books. She was doing automatic writing. I was reading Shirley MacLaine. I loved those books. I loved hearing what their guides had to say and all that great wisdom and advice for moving forward spiritually. But I got to the point where I wanted to do it myself. I didn't want to wait for a book to come out. I wanted to have that kind of direct communication with Spirit. And what really was pushing me on was this desire, this need to find out the truth of who we are and why we're here. And really, one of the most pressing things for me is, why is life so difficult? Why do we have all this pain and suffering? And what can we do to kind of make it go away? So that's how I got started with the automatic writing. Now, reading Ruth Montgomery's books, she sat down at her kitchen table every day, and her guide, Lily, wrote with her. And so that's what I did. I sat down at my kitchen table every day, probably for a good 3 months, and Pat, absolutely nothing happened. And then one night I was at a psychic development class, and every week the teacher would do something different. We would study a different aspect of metaphysics. And this one particular night, she announced to the class that we were going to do automatic writing. And snarky little New Yorker that I am, I said out loud, that's never going to happen for me. And as the words were coming out of my mouth, something, and I now know that it was Spirit, kind of like grabbed a hold of my arm, and the next thing I knew, I was drawing the most beautiful little figure eights and circles that I had ever seen in my life. The teacher says from across the room, "Control it." And I'm saying, "Control it? You haven't even taught this class yet. I don't know how to control it."
Right.
And I'm watching my arm. Everybody's watching my arm. And after a few minutes, it just stopped. And that was really my first connection. And then over the next few weeks, I realized or learned that it was my guide, Jeremy, that was coming through. And I started to work with Jeremy and then different guides. And I did that very happily for many years, never looking to write a book. It was not my intention to ever write a book or to ever really come out of the spiritual closet because, that does cause a lot of problems when you have a regular 9-to-5 job sometimes. So when my guide Jeremy said, we're going to write a book, really I just laughed. I just laughed because who am I to be writing a book,
Right.
And finally, I learned the hard way that it's very difficult to argue with Spirit sometimes. And so I gave up and said, fine, you want to write a book? Dictate it. Go ahead. I'll take all the information down, dictate it. And then I took it, I put it into book form, I stuck it in my desk drawer, and I figured, okay, that's it, I'm done. And then, it was just, okay, time to send it out to the publishers, and I thought, well, no publisher is ever gonna publish this book, and that was my first book, Windows of Opportunity. And lo and behold, I got a call from Dolores Cannon at Ozark Mountain, and by the way, she sponsors a UFO conference every year in Arkansas.
Yes.
And I thought it was a friend of mine just being a smart aleck and calling and pretending to be a publisher and accepting my book. I truly never thought that the book would be published. And then it was, and that was right around the time that Facebook was really getting started. And so then I was out there. My foot was out of that spiritual closet, and the next book came, and the next book came, and I'm all the way out. And here I am on your show.
Doing your thing.
Doing my thing.
Dolores is she can be how can I say this nicely? She can have a little attitude.
Dolores, yes, she can, but she's very focused. I think it comes from that she's just so focused on her work.
She is. No,
and getting that information out, and she just doesn't beat around the bush. It's just straight to whatever the topic is.
I know. Matter of fact, is it her daughter that works with her? Does a lot of interviews?
Julia.
Yeah, and I know I put a request in some time ago. We used to do the show. I used to do the show on weeknights. I used to do it Monday through Saturday, and then work a day job on top of it. And I actually
tried. How you feel.
Yep, I tried to get her on a Friday night to come on at midnight. And her exact response is, "What, are you crazy? Are you insane to stay up that late? There's no way." And she was on that other show, something Ocean
she
to
has
Ocean
her own
or
show.
Coast to Coast or one of them other ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sure she's been on Coast to Coast a few times, but she also has her own show.
And it was just funny because I was listening to her the following week on Coast to Coast, and you could just tell she was pretty tired at the time because, of course, in your neck of the woods, it's on quite late.
Yes.
But have to reconnect with her. But she does very, very interesting work, just amazing work. And
she's a hypnotherapist, and that's what all her books are.
Right.
All the hypnotherapy sessions that she's had, and so many of them, I'm going to tell you that almost all of them that I've read all of her books have to do with people who have incarnated but had lives on other planets or other dimensions. Just fascinating stuff.
So let me ask you, automatic writing, for those that don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is automatic writing? Give us the layman's term on what it is.
You know, it's just one of the ways that we have to connect with spirit, to connect with our guides, or some people like to say guardian angels. And the way that it works is that you can sit in front of your computer, and you can do it on your computer, or you can do it with pen and paper, which is the way that I started out, and then switched to computer when they started channeling books through me. That was a little bit too much to write. But the way that I do it, let's just say pen and paper, I just sit and hold the pen to the paper and a little quick prayer of protection, and then I write down across the top of the paper, will someone write with me? And then just kind of, clear my mind and wait, and then the connection happens. And there are different ways of doing automatic writing. For me, I know that Doreen Virtue, the angel lady, she writes the angel books, she also gets her information through automatic writing. But when I'm doing it, I hear the words in my head as my hand is writing them.
Do you feel that when you're doing this, do you feel that, obviously, you feel that it's an outside presence, if you will.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I guess it would be like an outside presence in the inner mind.
Yeah.
Did it kind of scare you a little bit? When you first started experiencing this, was this something, and I'm honest when I say this, you say, man, am I going crazy? Am I hearing things in my head? Did it scare you a little bit, or did it?
No one has ever asked me that question in all of these years. That is such an astute and great question. I was never scared, and I think that several reasons for that. I wasn't scared initially because I was looking for it. I wanted to do it. I had read all of these books, these great books by people who were doing it, and I really wanted this firsthand experience for myself. So that didn't scare me. When the teacher yelled at me to control it, I really didn't know what I was doing, so that didn't scare me. I just wondered, how do I do this? And as you go along, you learn that you can, first of all, keep your eyes open. Don't close your eyes, or else you're going to go right off the edge of the page. And you can stop, and you can ask questions, and you can ask for clarification. Everything that I have gotten has been just purely for the purposes of spiritual growth and to help us move forward and to help us live our lives with less drama and less pain. So I've never questioned or thought that there were any dark entities trying to come through me. Also, I always ask when a new guide comes through, I always ask who they are and what is their relationship with me, and and what is it that we're going to work on. And in the beginning, I had several different guides that came through. For a long time, I didn't have any new guides come through. But I will tell you this: there's no doubt about it. In the very beginning, I questioned myself every day: am I making this stuff up? But then I could not possibly make this stuff up. There's just no way that I could have ever made this stuff up. And also, I would never come out of that spiritual closet if I didn't think it was going to help people. Because you know that when we go out like this and we talk in public and we do workshops and we write books, we're putting our reputations on the line. And I'm the director of sales for a very large company in Orlando, Florida. I didn't want to lose that job.
Sure.
So.
Well, because one guest that I had on the show a couple of times is Sandra Sneed. Have you ever heard of her?
I have heard of her.
Yeah, her book is called What to Do When You're Dead, and Sandra had a very interesting thing happen to her. Her life was going well. Things didn't go well. She was an atheist, and she went down in her, basically, real high level. She went down in her basement. Something told her to pull out a pen and a paper, and she started to have conversations with God.
Oh, there you go.
And
Automatic writing with God. I love it.
And wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And that was a question I had for her: is that were you scared? Because you're obviously channeling, if you want to call it, or I guess channeling would be a good word.
Yeah.
You're allowing yourself to be open to let something use you as an instrument, if you will. And I would say that me, it would kind of scare a little bit.
I think years ago, when people channeled, they would kind of go into a trance. But these days, and I think it's because the veil is not quite so thick as it used to be. It's much, much thinner. Our vibrations are higher. Whatever the reason, things are different now for channeling than it was years ago. I don't think anybody goes into a trance where they subjugate their personality anymore. I'm wide awake. I know exactly what's going on. Whatever's coming through me, if I have a question, I'll just stop. I'll ask for clarification. So to me, it doesn't seem dangerous in that sense. Now, I would not want to go into a trance and not know what was going on or know what I was saying or what was coming through me. That I would not like. And also, I think for me, there's a very big difference between doing automatic writing or even meditating with intent and getting information from my guides and dealing with ghosts. Ghosts scare the heck out of me. I do not want to be touched by a ghost. I don't want any apparitions popping up in front of me. I don't like that stuff. See, the automatic writing I can control. It doesn't. I don't just go into this automatic writing thing. I sit down, I meditate, I get ready on the computer. I know that it's going to happen. It's not a sudden thing where somebody's taken me over.
So you kind of do you encourage it? Do you anticipate it? Do you ask for it?
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I used to do it every single day, and I did it with pen and paper, and I kept it all. I still have all of that from the 1980s. It's kind of interesting sometimes to go back and look at it. When it was time to do the book, I made a promise that I would do it I would sit down and I would do the automatic writing and take the channel dictation every day at the same time. And I did that for 20 minutes a day before I went to work every morning until they were finished with each book. And then I took the time to put the books together the way that they're put together. These days, this is going to crack you up, but my guides love Facebook. And every Friday, one of my guides will channel a message. We call it Guide Group Fridays. And that's what the new book is. It's a compilation of all this wisdom and messages for my Facebook page that they've done over the last couple of years, put together by subject matter. So, I mean, who would ever guess that your guides would want to go and give messages on Facebook? But almost every Friday, someone comes through and does that, and I do that before I go to work in the morning. So that's a scheduled thing for me. Now, once in a while, if I feel like I need some guidance, I will sit down and initiate it. If they want to initiate it, I tend to hear them the most when I'm driving my car because I'm all alone, nothing going on really around me, or in the shower. I get a lot of information in the shower because, again, nobody's disturbing you,
Right. The information that you get, Sherri, how can I put this? Is it for your benefit? Is it for everybody's benefit?
Well, they dictate or channel things to me that are of a very personal nature. That's not usually what goes into the books. What goes into the books is for the benefit of everyone.
what kind of things do they tell you?
Okay. Well, the first book was called Windows of Opportunity. And, I mean, there's a lot of different things in there. And I do have to say that there's information about ETs in every single one of my books. But Windows of Opportunity...
We're going to talk about ETs, too. We got to talk about
Okay, cool. Windows of Opportunity focuses on what we have planned to do in a given lifetime. We're here. We're in this incarnation. We've come here to learn certain things. Sometimes we get stuck in life scripts, and what this book is all about is how to spot windows of opportunity for growth that we've kind of set up for ourselves, and how to recognize them earlier rather than later, as my guide group says, on the ground floor instead of in the penthouse, so that we can move forward with less drama and less pain. Because the earlier you spot a window of opportunity, you can end it, and you don't have to keep opening up the same type of thing or attracting the same type of thing. You know how some men and women continually attract the same kind of girlfriend or boyfriend?
Yes.
Not necessarily great for them, but, they could have different color hair, different names, but basically the same person. That's like a life script, and that's a lesson just begging to be learned. And until we learn how to recognize that, we're going to continue to be in that cycle. So that's what Windows of Opportunity is all about. And it also brings in the concept of relationship villains, which are catalysts, who are catalysts to open up those windows of opportunity for us. So it's all about learning how to spot those windows and those villains and put an end to those life scripts so that we can move forward. That's the first book.
I think one of the, in kind of just talking along those lines, I think one thing that I've learned in my life, in being around people in my life, is, and you kind of hit it on the head, is people that are caught in these codependency type relationships.
Yeah.
Where they feel that they've got to it's a cycle, and it can run for many, many years and through many generations, where somebody feels that, they were brought up in a situation where maybe there was alcohol involved or drug abuse involved, and I think it happens a little bit more with women than it does men. But that codependency cycle, people seem to just fall into it like a bucket. And when somebody steps out of it, I mean, they need to be congratulated, and because it's a hard thing to step away from.
It absolutely is. We become used to it. And speaking for myself, and unfortunately for me, my guide group asked me to please put this in that. I had a tendency to be attracted to very controlling men. And what was interesting is the way that they talk about in the books, how you start out with an easy window, and then the windows get harder and harder and more dramatic as you go along, because they want you to wake up. You want to wake up. You plan these things for yourself. And for me, my first husband, he wanted to dictate certain things in my life, and crazy things like I couldn't buy Wonder Bread. I had to buy the store-bought brand. Such a silly little thing. The next relationship, was worse and worse and worse. They just got progressively worse until I was engaged to a guy who one day threw me up against a wall and spit in my face. And that's when I woke up, and that's when I ended that type of relationship. I didn't realize at that moment that it was a window of opportunity that I was learning and going through. But what I did was I changed my behavior. Instead of just keeping my mouth shut and leaving a relationship like that, I fought back. I said what was on my mind. And now I'm married to a great guy, and I'm not going to say that everything is all peaches and cream, but we communicate. If I have something on my mind, if I don't like something that he said or something that he's done, I bring it up, we talk about it, and he does the same thing, instead of holding it in and then kind of exploding. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, so I had a lot of communication lessons to learn, which is quite hysterical when you consider that I have a BA in communication.
Well, and I think the other thing, Sherri, that a lot of people, men and women accordingly, is we let things fester sometimes.
Yes.
We let those things fester, and one thing I think that's really, really sad is I think a lot of this, like this bullying that's going on in schools, with these children especially, where things fester. They need some help. They need to get some of these things out. And now we're seeing, horrific things happening. We're seeing children that are, taking their lives, or they're taking other people's lives. It's just something that you exactly. It's like a bomb. It is. Just waiting to go off. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fringe Radio Show. Our guest tonight, Sherri, Cortland. Sherri, again, thank you so much for giving us some time tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here.
We were talking a little bit before we had to take a commercial break, though, about kind of breaking the cycle, and obviously what you've experienced did that for you.
Yeah. Breaking the cycle is all about changing your behavior or changing your attitude. And that's what I did, and that's what others that I've spoken to have had to do also. First of all, you have to recognize it, and then you've got to do something about it.
Right. Well, and just a side note, I'm not a therapist by any means, but anybody that is out there that is going through any form of abuse, you can step away from it. While it may seem hopeless sometimes, when I hear these stories, especially with men abusing women, it's sickening, is what it is. And if you feel like, and I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I feel very strongly about this subject. If you feel you got to punch somebody out or you got to beat someone around, go down to the local bar and pick a fight with with somebody your own size or somebody twice your size, and start swinging down there. Don't take advantage of your wife or girlfriend or fiance or your children. It makes me cringe when I hear any of those things. And abuse doesn't even have to necessarily always be physical. It can be mental abuse, belittling, bullying. Today in our schools, I think this bullying thing is just, it's out of control right now.
It is out of control, but now more and more people are understanding how important it is to stop it and the effects that it has on children and straight into their adulthood. So I think that the focus and the attention that's on it now is going to do a lot of good.
It is, without a doubt. Let's talk a little bit about UFOs and aliens and what you're doing. How do these guys or gals or creatures, or how do they come into play? It's never ever occurred to me that there wasn't life on other planets. It's just always been something that I've just known. It's not something that I believe in. I've just kind of known it. And when I was very young, I nearly died a couple of times. When I was 3 months old, I had pneumonia, and there were different things like that. And one of the things you asked me earlier, did I ever hear anything personal from my guides? And one of the personal things that they did tell me, and I did put this in Windows of Opportunity, was that I wanted to leave this incarnation. I did not want to continue this incarnation because things had changed with regard to my parents, and my father was an alcoholic, and life at home was very abusive. And I didn't want to be part of it, and I wanted to leave. And Spirit did not want me to leave because there were things that I needed to do, things that I signed on to do. We all do that. We all have our journey and our mission and things that we need to accomplish. And here's the first ET thing. When I was very young, I'm talking 7, 8 years old, I truly believed that mice lived under my bed, and that these white mice would come to visit me. They would come in through the window. And I didn't know until I started to read books about abductions and UFOs and things like that, that many times when someone comes to visit you, they will mask the experience. You will think that you are seeing an animal. Some people see owls. Apparently I saw white mice. My sister had experiences in Spark Hill, New York, and she saw a pink monster in black boots.
we see these things different ways. And what my guides say was that that was folks from another planet who were working with me, who were trying to get me to stay, to coach me through the things that were going on, because to check out at that point in time and wait for another incarnation would put the things that I needed to accomplish way, way, way behind. So take that for however you want to take it, but that was the first experience that I had. I have not had a lot of in-your-face experiences, but in 2010, I think it was, I had finished writing my second book, Raising Vibrations for the New Age, and I had just come back from speaking at Dolores Cannon's conference in Arkansas. And I had gotten some Moldavite. Now, I've been working with Moldavite for a long time, and, a lot of people say it's a tektite, and a lot of people say that it comes from the stars. And when I got my first piece of Moldavite, very interesting, it was shortly after that I kind of opened up and I was able to channel my guides. So, who knows, maybe the Moldavite triggered it, maybe it didn't. But when I was at that conference in 2010, I got a new piece of Moldavite. And I was sitting out in my front yard, and I was just starting to meditate with it. And again, I thought my book was done. And then a new guide came through. And his name is Aknanda, and he introduced himself, and he said that now my vibrations were high enough that he was able to come through and communicate with me, and that the book wasn't done, and that he had information that he wanted to share about our galactic heritage. So that became a chapter in the second book.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
You want to take a call?
Sure.
Okay. Let's take your call. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Sherri Cortland.
Hey, how you doing, pal? It's Harv.
Hey, Harv, what's going on?
Not much, man. She rang a bell with me. It was about...
Go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah. I was married to this gal, and she would get drunk, and then she'd come over and she'd punch me.
For the heck of it?
Well, she was drunk up. Look, I drink.
Right.
I drink, but even if just walk in and punch somebody, anyway, she'd punch me like, actually, she'd try to punch a carotid artery and stuff. And then, I would block, I walked with the Bullocks in Salt Lake, and gosh dang it, I wanted to stop. She was fun until now, I can tell you the truth. But truth of the matter is, I didn't like her ugliness. She says she got raped by her grandfather. I'm like, geez, crap. I wish I would have known that. What do you think, sis?
Well, I think that if that
you
was...
can hear my tone of voice. Am I lying to you? Yes or no?
No. I think, was that an isolated incident in one relationship, or did you have a series of relationships where abuse was part of it?
No.
It was just the one?
No, my first wife, she died from cancer, so
okay.
That was kind of abusive.
Well, what my guides talk about in the books is that we plan certain things, certain experiences to have. And your girlfriend, the one who came in and just punched you, she could be what they call a relationship villain who was acting as a catalyst for a window of opportunity for you to learn something.
She was my wife who got married.
Oh, okay, your wife. All right, well then she could have been opening up a window of opportunity for you to learn something.
Obviously, I've looked at it 1,000 times. I was an idiot child. I should never.
Did you put a stop to it?
Yeah, divorce.
There you go.
Yeah, the sex was great. Sorry. That's,
and there's why people stay together.
Well, it was. I mean, geez, she was as crazy on one side as she was the other. So I just didn't like getting hit.
And you put a stop to it.
Yeah.
You stood up for yourself. You didn't let it continue. And chances are you're not going to accept that kind of behavior from anybody else, right?
And I don't give it to anybody. And I never
There you
have.
go.
There you go. The alcohol definitely can enhance the personality, Harv, without a doubt.
It can enhance it in a positive or negative manner.
Exactly.
There's no doubt about
Exactly, brother. Hey, I got all the lines lit up. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get to the next one.
All right, man. Thanks for letting me talk to this sweet girl.
Oh, she is. Talk to you later,
Thank
brother.
you so much for calling in.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Sissy.
All right, you want to take another one?
Yeah, take all of them.
Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Sherri, Cortland.
Hey, Sherri and Pat. It's Bill in New York again.
Hey, Bill.
Bill!
How are you?
I'm so glad you called. I was hoping that you would call in.
Yes, I actually live not too far from Pine Bush. I'm actually near the Stewart National Guard base.
I used to work at Stewart Airport.
Wow, cool. Yeah, that's like a few minutes from my house. But Sherri, I have a question for you. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that our life energy has the capacity to travel throughout the universe and have an influence on other species that may exist out there?
Wow, what a great question. What I understand from my guide groups and what I also believe personally is that we live many different lifetimes. We don't live them all on planet Earth. We live them on different planes, different dimensions, different planets. And I absolutely do believe that we influence life elsewhere. And now I'm going to sound a little crazy if I haven't already sounded crazy, but I'm just going to come out with this. One of the things that Agnanda, my Arcturian guide, said to me was that one of the reasons that folks from other planets or souls who have had a lot of experiences on other planets will incarnate as human beings is because they have to work from within. Folks, from the Pleiades, from Arcturus, they are here to help us and guide us. But like on Star Trek, there's a prime directive of sorts, and they can't just make big changes for us. They kind of have to work from within, and so there's a lot of incarnating as humans and then hoping to wake up and do the work from within. So right here on planet Earth, I think what you're talking about is going on. And so I don't think that it's far-fetched at all to think that it happens on other planets as well. We are energy, and when we pass from this lifetime, we still exist, and we go on. And down the road, we might incarnate, or we might continue on just as energy, and go on in other ways.
Yeah, because as from a metaphysical point of view, when you're channeling, I guess, or with your divine guide, I'm sure it's through some process of a metaphysical aspect. And what is the process? Are you doing this through meditation? Like, what exactly is your technique when you're doing this?
Oh, that's a great question. There are two different ways that I do it. The first way is through automatic writing, where I will sit down and I will just quiet my mind and meditate for a couple of minutes, and then I do it on the computer now, but you could do it with pen and paper. Just clear my mind, and I ask, I type it out or I write it out, does someone want to write with me? And then what my guides do is they will identify themselves. And, for instance, Sherri, this is Gilbert, I'm going to write with you. Sherri, this is Jeremy, I'm going to write with you. And then I'll ask them, do you have anything for me today? What kind of information do you have? Or if we're working on a book, they'll just go ahead and channel the information that they want to give me for the book. That's the first way that I do it. The second way is that I will meditate with intent, meaning that when I sit down and meditate, I will ask for Spirit to come in and give me messages.
Hey, Sherri, I gotta stop you. I gotta take a news break. Bill, you want to stick around to the other side?
Sure, why not?